I'll let you start over.
Okay, so the first topic is about the resources filter. I don't think Dipayan is with us today, but I'll give an update about this.
Okay, just briefly, if I could briefly, just because I know you're in the zone, which is great, but I'll also say welcome everybody to the Layer5 website's call, and maybe I should stop the YouTube live stream. It's always so difficult because you start the live stream, it's like bringing up the browser, and if you close it beforehand, you're not sure if it's going to actually make the live stream. So with no further interruption, it's Monday, February 14th. We do record the calls. Thanks everybody for coming. Priya is hosting today. Thank you very much. And she was just saying that we have a tradition here on the call of, well, welcoming newcomers. Anybody that might be on the call for this particular call, the website's meeting for the first time. It's a good opportunity just to say hi, let everybody get to know you, and vice versa, you to get to know everybody else. Anybody not had a chance to say hi on this call before? There's some folks like Abajay, who becomes quite obvious based on the background in Zoom, like he's been on a call before, 1 or 2 or 10. Yeah. Anybody else? So Anshu and Aditya, it's not obvious by your lack of a last name whether or not you're an Aditya or an Anshu that we already know. But there's a few of them here. Do you guys want to say hi, Aditya, Anshu? All right. So that Aditya is the Mr. Subedi. Okay, we know that riffraff. We know that guy. And then Anshu, say hi in chat or on the microphone if you would. Otherwise, we'll just keep harassing you.
Hi, hello Lee.
Hello.
Yeah, so I was not joining this first time. I'm Amino 19. I hope you know about me. Like I earlier contributed by just running a community, so I give a cut. Yeah.
Nice.
So
okay. Yeah.
Again.
Nice. Good. Yeah. Anshu, say your last name again. This isn't. So, Devapriya, do you want to continue? Okay. Actually, you're on mute. Yeah.
Okay. So the recent update which Dipayan made to the filters. 1 second. Yep. So this is how it looks now. So he has collapsed it in the mobile view. Collapsed it as in it is completely hidden. And only when a user clicks this, it opens up and we can have the various filters here. So a couple of things which I have told him to change and you guys can give your feedback too, is that the first thing was, so in the desktop view right now, all these filters are open by default because like there's a lot of space, so we can keep it open. So I told him to keep it open in desktop view by default and they keep it closed in the mobile view when it opens for the first time. That is one thing. Another thing is this one. See this filter, it has a cross and filters, and this is clear filters and a cross. So they kind of give the same impression to me. It's like, you know, clear all filters, that kind of an impression to me. So I told him to change this to say apply filters and probably change this into a button as well. Like probably a clear filter button and apply filter button. Because otherwise, if we keep this, they have to be aligned. Right now, the text is not aligned as well. So yeah, that was most of the feedback that I give as of now. So if anyone has anything else to say, you can bring it up now.
I think using different button is not necessary. We can like change the filter button as well. Like we can change its states if user is using the drop down, then it will be apply state, and when user is not using drop down, then it will be like cross filters, something like that.
Wait, I did not get it. If the user is applying the filters,
The drop down is not visible, then the state will be apply filters, and when the drop down is visible, then state will be cross filters. The same button, no need to like use a different button.
Yeah, am I audible?
yeah.
Okay, the thing is, actually, we need a button to clear the filters. Like when you're selecting something like articles or blogs, you need a separate button for that.
Okay, okay.
The thing is, we can work around that, but about the apply filters, I don't think we need it because like we are filtering all the options with an on-click thing. So having a separate apply filters button doesn't make any sense. I feel that.
I wasn't saying create a separate apply filter. I was just saying, I think you weren't here before. See this one, cross filters, and this one, clear filters. Suppose you don't have this one. This kind of gives an illusion that you're removing all the filters. Instead, we can just change this. Instead of the icon, we can just say apply filters. It doesn't have to do any other functionality. That is what I was saying.
Another thing you can do is delete the filters. Just make a cross to close the filters and remove the cross from the clear filters button.
Yeah, that's easy way around actually.
Yeah, because a cross will be symbolic to
Yep.
closing the filters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And clear filters, I don't think clear filter needs a cross button. A clear filter.
Yeah, the name itself is pretty straightforward. Yeah.
So then you can remove it from here as well. And there was a hover effect.
I removed it by mistake. I think I would add it again. No issues.
Also, the gap between this and this has to be
Yeah,
decreased.
I need to increase it or like what?
Decrease
Decrease
it.
Decrease it.
And one other thing, we can decrease the font weight of type and decrease the font weight of type, make it different from filters, main filters, and the sub filters, right? Keep the font weight of the filters and decrease it of the type written. I just think it will be easier to differentiate. Small change.
Yeah, that can be done. Also, Dipayan, if you missed it, one more thing that I mentioned is these filters should be open in the desktop view by default, and in the mobile view, it should be closed by default. Can you do that? Was I audible?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I got
they
it.
were okay.
Okay, cool. So anyone else has anything else to add to this? No. Cool. Okay, moving on to the next topic. Is Subhradeep with us today? I can.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about this? Give us updates on what you've done.
Actually, I have raised a PR and make some changes, but waiting for the review. Yes, this is the last update.
Okay, so
Previously, it was like only loading animation, and after the changes, it's like we blur the means the calendar is blurred and just showing that user that calendar is loading.
I think instead of showing blur, we can use shimmer effect. That will be very effective, like shimmer effect instead of showing blur.
Yeah, that can be done also.
Like you can try. That is not difficult. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I'll try.
And one
So
more
should
thing,
I
like
yeah.
one more thing, I
Yeah,
think
tell.
the animation needs some delay. Like it is very fast. It is like not even rotating in a full circle too. So if it has some delay, then it looks good.
No, I think that is
Actually,
first.
Yeah,
it is
maybe.
showing means it's showing only till after the data is fetched. Means whenever the data is fetched, then automatically it will remove. So
Okay,
it
okay, okay,
depends on the how fast the data is fetched.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
So the blurred looks good to me. But is this logo blurred as well?
No.
Sort of looks blurred to me, but yeah, the calendar looks good.
Okay.
Wait one second. Okay, no, it's not. Any other comments?
Cool.
On
Yeah, I apologize if this is repeat feedback, but yeah, we should, if you would, please show the title to the page in full opacity, because that's not what people are waiting on to load. They're not waiting for the title to load, and they're not even waiting for the calendar itself to load. They're just waiting for the detail, the data in the calendar. So it's not the most critical that we actually show the calendar in full opacity, but in some respects, ideally, or like 50%, because it's only the last like half of the calendar that's waiting to be loaded. So I don't know, give that some thought if you would. If we don't get through a full cycle of the spinner, beautiful. If we never show the spinner, beautiful. It's like there's
Yeah.
that just means that like we didn't really need it in the first place, or not necessarily, or sometimes it's good work and this is desired and it's a nice custom spinner. You might double its size or something. I don't know, maybe just to just so that it's really apparent that like something is there. Good job on the reducing the opacity. It's like even if you leave it just as is, you're still indicating to people, to visitors, that like, hey, there's something here. It's not yet interactable. You can't interact with it yet, but like, the premise of what you're doing is really good. And when you think about it, after the effort that's put in, you might be able to take advantage of that pattern and potentially apply the custom spinner to one or two other areas. There are a few pages where there's a lot of data in the page. The landscape is one example. Now, that said, the data is within the site itself. So we generally don't have an issue with it loading quickly. The calendar data, that's coming from a separate site. That's coming from Google Calendar. So I'm trying to think if there are other places on this site or potentially other sites that remote data is being loaded and this could be reused. One place that comes to mind is meshery.io/calendar. It's actually the same calendar. It's actually the same data, same calendar data source. It's a different implementation, but food for thought in case you want to capitalize on your investment, you know. So cool. This is good. Yeah. By the way, super, just really quick, is that something that you would want to carry forward? Whether you do or don't, you might want to open an issue on meshery.io so that either you can take it or someone else, that if you don't want to do it.
Okay, sure. I will raise an issue from there. Okay.
Thank you. Cool.
Also, Shupradeep, I saw you commented on another issue about making the blog filters collapsible. There's
Yeah,
someone,
I guess someone is working, is still there, so that's why.
I just had to say, if whoever's assigned doesn't respond by today, you can start working on it.
Okay.
So the next one is by Leonard. Leonard, you're here, right? You want to talk about this?
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Hello? Good afternoon.
We can.
Okay, so I don't know. I don't have to, do I have to share my screen? Because I'm not really running locally. I just joined the call right now.
I can continue.
No.
What did you say? Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen, then I will.
Yeah, Leonard, she was just saying that she can share if that helps.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll save you a bit of power, I think.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Let me share. So I'll probably like go through the issue. I've not really. I'll go through the link that is posted here. So basically, the only thing I did here was I discussed with ABJ. I think if I pronounce the name correctly. So he was working on the optimizing the home page. So I wanted to do other contributions like aligning the big hero images and other things. So he said he's working on them and he has created few PR. And so I looked through, I saw that there was still an issue with the big image in the background, which was this background image here. Let me go through this. So, and okay. So when I asked him if he had any plans in optimizing the image, he said he found there was an issue. Like he saw that Gatsby doesn't really like support doing the background image. So I had to do some research and I found that there was a way you could actually do it with some plugins. Gatsby stopped supporting background image in like the previous version, but then they had some other plugins that called GB Bridge. Gatsby Bridge that helps you like do some you connect the Gatsby plugin, the current version, and you do the conversion of the background image. So I implemented that after the research, and I was able to like turn this particular background image to like when it's loaded to a WebP image. So from what I see when it's loaded, it goes from being 1 MB size to like around 47 kilobytes in size. So that is what I basically did. So it was like really a tangible reduction in in the optimal in size. So I felt it was good. I created the PR for that as well. I intend to also do this same thing in all background, like some background imaging, but in other pages as well as implement the Gatsby static imaging, the other ones that are not done yet. So that was literally what I did. So so to like show. Okay, so if I try to this image right now is basically like around 47 kilobytes. So from 1 megabytes. So that is
that's marginal. That's no. Just kidding. Yeah, no, that's amazing, isn't it? That so is this Leonard, is that WebP format here?
Yeah. It's in WebP format here. Yes.
Yeah. Do we great. Oh, and I think I was going to ask a question, but I think I see the answer. So should a visitor be using a browser that doesn't support WebP? Is that second background image, do we fall back to PNG or?
Okay. So when I was doing the other contribution that was later closed, I had to set. There was some configuration I was supposed to make in the, I think in the package.json at the Gatsby config that should have a fallback. So it has like the first one, the second one, and the fallback. So I noticed just because that contribution wasn't merged, the configuration, the configuration is not in the Gatsby config yet. So since because of the configuration is not in this config, I could actually also like add that configuration so that even if you're working with the Gatsby background, like the static image that people are like Abidjan and the rest has been like adding to the page, that we should also have a fallback, say if you use it in a browser that is not supported. But then you could actually try if this is, I don't know if you have an older browser, but you can actually try if this also works in the older browser you think might not be supported. So
I think it will work in all browsers, and you don't need to config as Nikhil already configured all the files we have in images folder. So maybe we don't need to configure that specify in the package.json file. One thing you can do is you can inspect it, and if it shows two lines like one for WebP format and one for PNG, then it will be fine. And you can go on that particular div where it is present, and if it is showing the two files, like one for the WebP format and one for the PNG format, then we will we can good to go. It is working fine for us if it shows the duo format that we want.
all right. So Lee, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess a couple of things that the quality of the image is, in this case, like I don't think it's a concern. I don't know that it's even, to my eyes, that there's enough. I don't know. I don't know that you can really tell a difference in terms of the quality of the image, which is amazing considering the savings in bandwidth and the savings of speed. So that's fantastic. The plugin, the configuration that you were speaking to inside a Gatsby config, is that plugin specific, or is that?
No, it is not plugin specific. It's for example, if the Gatsby static image or like the Gatsby ways of optimizing images using a page, the config actually like it's more of you implementing a fallback. So it's either you go from say a WebP to a JPEG or to an author. So it's more like it's a fallback. So if this one doesn't load the other one. So for unsupported browsers where the WebP wouldn't work, so it will default to maybe the JPEG, and or probably to use its hand to like find the author, probably like look for the best ones that it will go like that it will show in their page. So it's like a general thing. It's not just for Gatsby. So it's not just for the plugin that I used. So but
Gotcha.
then yeah, so
do we, okay, let's get more specific. So since it's a sweeping change, this is kind of a big, potentially a very positively impactful change, but one that's large in nature, we should dig in here a little bit more. So for the contributors to the website, what's the mechanism? How do they configure a fallback? You just have this two images of the exact same file name, one with one extension, one with a different extension. And then based on the fact that the files have the same name, Like what do you have to do to configure and make sure that you're falling back?
You don't have to perform any extra configuration. Once you put that line in the Gatsby config, you don't have to. You just do your normal thing and maybe trying to, if you add the static image plugin or whatever. You don't have to configure anything. So far it's there already in the Gatsby config that this is our Gatsby config that has. Please. Okay.
Yeah, Leonard, yeah, if you don't mind, can you share the, maybe you don't have it handy and that's okay, but it'd be helpful to kind of look at.
Maybe I should go, I don't know if I could reference, is there a way
Yeah.
I could reference my former PR? So, because
Yeah, you just, when you go to pull request.
The thing I'm talking about is there. If there's a way I could like.
You'll go to closed. When you go to pull request, you go to closed.
It's in the the Gatsby config. Let me.
Some tabs
sorry.
if you want, like there are a lot of tabs.
Maybe you think I can share some network discussion already? Can you hear me?
Mostly. Yeah, Leonard, if you go to the pull requests for the Layer5 site, you can filter on closed pull requests and you'll be able to reference all of your prior work.
Okay, like I could do that now, but then I feel maybe I should stop sharing. Maybe somebody could do it for me because I'm having a network discussion. I don't know.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
You want me to go to pulls right now?
Oh, I think we're going to circle back to Leonard so he can get some time to find his prior PR, and that way we can make good use of the time.
Yeah. One thing that we can do in your present PR is, since the quality is reducing like a little bit, we can probably put a darker overlay, like one shade darker probably, to the image using CSS. That is one thing which we can do. Okay, anyways, moving on. Next topic is by Lee.
Oh, very good. I was just saying hi to Ashwin, who's on the call. Nice to have you. Ashwin, if you don't mind, take a moment to drop your last name into Zoom, and that way we'll know you from the other 4 Ashwins here. You'll be the special Ashwin. Oh, nice. Very good. Yeah, absolutely. Ashwin, poke as you will. Poke around as you will. All right, good. So I hit the next topic up. And Devapriya, if you're okay with this, if you're okay sharing, we had made a recent comment in one of our calls somewhere, and I think we filed an issue on, well, trying to make the the difference between the meshery.io project site, and the fact that that's a site, and then the documentation for Meshery, that's a different site. We were trying to minimize some of the differences as people switch back and forth. So this is actually right where you're sitting is a perfect use case. Devapriya, if you were to click on to open in a new tab, the docs page, I hope no one else was working on this because I didn't quite check, but I just made a couple of quick updates to try to pull the 2 nav bars more into alignment. I suspect I think they're using about the same font. They're about,
Sorry.
the text is
I really
about,
apologize for the cutoff. I'm sorry.
and the there's actually a gradient that is super light that's happening right here in the docs navbar. It's very, very light. It's a little bit darker at the top and just a smidge lighter at the bottom. The reason for that, though, is because it's not just a single solid color, and it's hard to tell through Zoom. But if you're on the sites, if you go back, Deborah Priya, if you were to go, yeah, and you go to the very, it's actually kind of bad, because here's something that we could use some help on. So right here, there is what I like to think of as a fairly pretty gradual linear gradient starting from a darker green to a lighter green, vertical, right? Now, that same linear gradient has been applied to the documentation navbar. So if you switch over, like they should be, it's really hard to tell like this, but I think that these are the same, I think. What I don't think is the same, yeah, I know it's deceiving. Like to me right here, it looks like the project site actually has a gradient and the documentation site doesn't. But if someone chooses to dig in, then please prove me right or prove me wrong. There is something that Deborah Priya, this is super small. I'm not sure why we're talking about this long, but if you go to the project site, when you start to scroll, we have the navbar follow. And if you notice, it changes color. So the color of that charcoal green that's used right now is, it doesn't have, one, it doesn't have a gradient. Two, I don't know that if you go all the way to the top again. Okay, I don't know. It feels like it's a little darker. That feels a little darker than, anyway. We're just trying to minimize the differences between the two sites so that people don't really feel like they've dropped out of one and hit the other. Ultimately, if they feel that way, it's okay. The Meshry logo is a little bit smaller on the documentation site. That's just so that it's the same height, I think, as the Word documentation, but we could change that. We could make the logo a little bit bigger. So whatever. Does this interest anybody in terms of trying to align gradients and things?
So the height is fixed, right? Because I remember merging a PR that was fixed.
I think that the height of the navbars is fixed. Yeah, I think so.
The height is fixed, just the color.
What's a little bit of an interesting challenge is when you're on the project site, this is actually probably good learning for everyone, including me. When you're on the project site, if you're at the very top, the coloring goes to this gradient that, well, it's a gradient, a vertical gradient that starts at 0, at the very, very top. And let's say that the nav bar is, I don't know, 150 pixels tall, let's just say, or, somewhere in there, right? Now, if you apply a gradient, a linear gradient to that, you'll see that it would go from very dark to very light in a short little span. It's like, well, that's not the coloring that we want. We want it to be only the first 150 pixels. Well, if you're on the docs page, in order for it to figure out just how the depth of how light the green should get, it's like, well, it needs to measure that over the same distance as the project site. The project site hero plus navbar adds up to like 1,422 pixels. Why I remember that, I have no idea. And so, so it's kind of an interesting challenge that, like, okay, well, on the doc site, what else is there's different ways to figure out just how to make that gradient precise. And so, yeah, like I said, it's kind of, if you challenge yourself to really make it the same, it becomes an interesting challenge. That type of discussion on CSS, for some of you, probably feels like a sort of a ridiculously small thing. Like, why are we? It's like, well, actually, if you're really trying to make good software, when you have the time to, like, every pixel counts. It really does. There's a Nikhil Sharma who's not on the call today. He's been on the call the last few weeks. He's just starting an internship with Layer5. He is focused on nothing but pixels at the moment, and his impact is massive. He'll if he's here next week, he'll show what he had worked on. It only took a couple of days, and it's really neat. And it's just CSS, but it's really neat. So, okay, I didn't hear any takers, so maybe we'll just let it be how it is. Okay.
I'll create an issue about this maybe, if there are no takers on the call right now. Okay. So the next topic is issues with mobile menu in GetNighthawk. So I think there was a fix about the GetNighthawk website, but there was something with the file change. Like the changes were made in the CSS file, but they were supposed to be made in an SAS file or something. That is why this did not get implemented. Abhijay, you were coordinating with.
Yeah, Anirudh, he's not active right now. Like he's busy with his exams, so I can look into this issue.
Yeah, so the changes in styles will be the same, just the styles have to move to the other file. I think that should fix it.
Maybe in includes folder. I will figure it out.
Yeah. So no other issues right now, right?
Right. Yeah, right. I don't think so. There's wait. Actually, if you don't mind, if you go back real quick, so we have two levels. I think there's a bigger issue lurking here. We have two levels of menus. So we have a site navigator, which is the menu that you were just showing, and then we have a docs table of contents, or a docs like sidebar menu. And in mobile view, I think that the two get confused, maybe. So there's one. If you go to docs, okay, we've got a menu. By the way, that.
Yeah, on docs page we have a sub menu. I don't know why it is not showing up.
I think, yeah, actually, if you click that little double chevron, that might pull out the menu, maybe.
Yeah.
Pretty cool idea. I can't remember who worked on it. It is a cool idea. It is. I'll ask everyone this question. There's a couple of questions. One, does the chevron get in your field of view for reading? Two, or the chevron slide, the button. Two, what would you consider, like when you, before Deborah had clicked on the button, what would you have expected to happen? Is it obvious to you? Three, assuming that the answer to both of those is what I think it is, which is it kind of gets in the way of reading some stuff and you're not quite sure what would have happened. That, like, well, imagine if you take the chevron, the circle, you shove it all the way over to the left. So it's actually like half a circle, like 3/4 of a circle. You like cut off a quarter of it. You shove it all the way to the left, cut off a quarter of it. You might then, one, you might be able to read more stuff. Two, you might understand that it's something of a pull tab, like you're actually going to pull open a menu. And then if it inverts its direction when the menu is open, you can then push it back closed.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Somewhere we can put it on top, somewhere over here.
At first, it is at top. Like we have a separate button there. Like I don't know who might be regarding this change, but initially we have a different navbar which opens in a half way on this docs page.
Wait, I didn't get what you meant. Open.
I'm saying that we initially in the button we have right now is in form of a navbar too, like on docs page. When we click on that button, we will get the content of all the docs we have. I think it is one of the recent change. I'm not aware of this change, like this circle button. So I can change that.
You'll look into this?
Yeah.
So we were still discussing what should be the change. So does everyone have any opinions? Like, I think what Lee suggested is pretty good for now. Half a circle here, and when it opens, probably the other one shifts here, like to close.
Like the one we did in the Meshri site for the side panel. Yash is working on something similar.
Yeah. I closed it, but we changed the icon for it. We can make this the previous one, like the previous one we had. Yeah. Like moving it half inside.
Yash, when you say the previous one, you mean like in what's in Mesher UI, you mean?
Yeah.
I was being unoriginal and was basically suggesting the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they being called.
Nice. Cool. Well, sounds like you might have a partner in crime with Abhijay there as well. If one of you is reviewing, the other one's implementing or something. But yeah, that'd be good. It makes you, I'm really curious, Deborah Priya, do you mind if you go to docs.meshery.io, like what do we have going on in mobile view? Yeah, what do we, so we've got, do we have a carousel? That menu looks pretty good, not it works, but what do we have? Do we have a carousel up top or, we just, okay. All right.
This happens, but there is no indication that this happens.
Yeah. Dropping a link would help, probably. Dropping 2 links actually would help. Like I don't know what they would be, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. Ignoring that. I don't know. Just curious. I'm sorry that I was curious now, so never mind.
Okay, so the next one is, I think, the dashboard. So I'll let Aditya talk about this. Aditya and Lee. Aditya Subedi.
Yeah. So we are trying to the issue. Yeah. So we're trying to make a dashboard for the service mesh performance site, in which we display all the results that happen in the backend of the performance test. Right now we are just showing tests that does not show the actual capabilities of the service mesh performance. So we're trying to display a more comprehensive data on the website that for that. So today, I asked Lee about what are the field names are, like what do they represent. So yeah.
Mr. Subedi, do you have those handy?
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Yeah. Yeah. I'll share my screen. Yeah, these are the results.
Nice. And then, okay. So in concept, one of the places that we should really have documentation of this is in the spec itself, in the service mesh performance spec.
Okay.
So I'm looking now, and no. Yeah, I think we get specific about the fact there should be statistics and what format of data that statistics should be, but we don't give a lot of context, like comments around what those things mean. I don't believe. Let's see.
Yeah, so there are lots of data that gives end start percentage, but it doesn't give like what the data is about. So yeah, I guess this is the one which we show in the like performance test, like P50, P90, P99 max. These are the values that we show, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, that I figured out. This STD dev means, I guess, standard deviation. Yeah, but yeah, these things, like what are these datas for? I could not, figure out.
So are there 60 of those, or are there count? Okay, those are the histograms themselves. So it's, yeah, it's not obvious, and we should, but on line 64, it says duration histogram. Not that this is obvious, but
yeah, those are the points on the graph.
So in this particular test, if you scroll a little bit further to the top, I think there were 60 queries sent, I think.
Does this count mean 60?
I think so.
We have two counts here, like count. There's one more data field.
Yeah, if you keep going to the top, so runner results count. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the return codes there were 60 message responses with a return code of 200. So all of them were successful. So yeah, there's 60 total over a test time of from 5,000 to 5,890 milliseconds. So however many seconds that totals up to. So anyway, the array that you were just looking at for duration histogram, each of those indexes in the array. So end, count, start, percent. That's one of the vertical buckets that you'll see in the graph, where what it says is between the time 0.04 and 0.038715, between this slice of time, there was one request that went that fast. Like that was the fastest request. Only one of them came back. And out of the 60, it's 1.6 repeating, or the number of requests that land into that bucket, because it's not a precise time. It's a range between 0.387 and 0.04. It's a time range. How many requests came back were that fast? Only one. What was the percentage of the total number of requests that were sent? Well, it was 1.6% of them. So you go to the next bucket, and this is what a histogram is like a series. So what gets more interesting is you go to like the third or fourth bucket. Okay, that one, that's great. It's just more clear. It's like from the start time of 0.05 to the end time of 0.06, 11 of them landed somewhere between that time. And yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I think I get it now. And
So
what are these percentage for, like the success rate? Like,
so if we take 11 divided by 60, so how many landed in that bucket, that range? 11. How many total were there? 60. What's 60 divided by 11? Hopefully it's 11. Okay, that's okay. No, I'm sorry. What's 11 divided by 60? Is that the point? It's like 18.3, 0.183 repeating. So it's not exactly, so that's not exactly the right calculation. There's something to do. It might have something to do with standard deviation as well. But yeah, basically one way to help teach yourself this and begin to help document this spec is to look at the graphed version of it, hover and see the same exact point. You'll be able to map the points.
All right.
Yeah,
The
so the
percent-
percent is basically the total number of requests that have been sent. So if you see, the count was 11 over there, and before that there were 3 requests sent. So a total count of 14. So it's 14 by 60.
Nice. That makes sense. So it's a cumulative, it's like by that point in time, like if we start from the very top, it's like from the very top, it's like, hey, starting at the fastest responses and going all the way to the end to the slowest responses. If you're looking at like the fourth bucket, the fourth time range, what Aditya is saying is by the time that you've arrived at that fourth bucket, 23%, that 23% fall were this fast or faster. Right.
Okay.
So that's just a cumulative total of like out of the 60, if you take the count of 11 plus a count of 1 plus a count of 1 plus a count of 1, that's 20. That's
14 divided by 60 is 0.233. Okay. So that means these counts like total up to 60 around here.
and
And
the
Yep.
standard deviation is the next, is where the percentile is like.
all right. So okay. So one more thing, like these are these like why have you set like 50, 75, 90, 99? Like, is there any like any particular reason for that? Or?
I think it's like order of standard. Yeah, in the golden, okay. Yeah, in SRE land, for those that are into DevOps and those that want to like track, the quickest way to, so you can measure any number of metrics in your infrastructure to tell whether or not it's being performant and running very well. There's 1,000, there's like tons and tons and tons. Well, which ones should you measure? Which ones are actually meaningful? Well, there's 4 golden signals that people talk about, the ones that you should measure. So some are like, some of it's latency, some of it's the latency that you have on your services, errors that you're seeing, your overall request rate. Forget the other one. Anyway, but for each of those metrics, those time series, what you could do is say, well, hey, what's our average latency? What's our 50% latency? Well, on average, it takes 150 milliseconds to get a response. It's like, hey, we're doing great. Like, that's really fast for our website, or for whatever service it is. Except if you accept that average can lie and hide a lot of important info. Because then if you look at what's our 99th percentile? What's of all the ones that we're sending, what's the one, how slow are the 1%? And they could be super slow. We could have a really long tail of like, well, yeah, most of them on average, when you average them all out, it comes to 150 milliseconds, but some of them take 4 minutes. It's like, whoa. So anyway, these percentiles are kind of commonplace convention for people monitoring infrastructure to say, let's take a look at these percentiles. And it just, people have kind of landed on the convention that these are the ones that you typically want to look at.
Okay.
So for the response time, what we're doing here is saying, okay, for latency of the 60 that were sent, let's take how fast they all came back, add that all up, divide, do the, anyway, here's the nice thing, Subedi, which is some of this, like, it doesn't matter at all. Like you don't have to understand any of that in order to have a performance dashboard. Because all you need to do is all we want to do is basically take the same charts and put them onto a page and then let people switch between the first result, the second result, and the third. Kind of starting there.
So would this data be real time, or like we would just be using this JSON?
Using the JSON.
The one which you have in the database.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Okay. Okay. Then, so I guess the graphs will be more or like same that we have now in the Meshery UI, or we have to add something else in that?
It's a good question. Until there's a mock-up, I would say it's just the same as what you see in Mesh or UI when you open up the modal. It just shows the histograms, so which is the same as what you'll find inside of Istio's performance. Let me Istio.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. So in our meeting minutes, I put a link to Istio's dashboard. I know you've seen this before, but so the Subedi is probably going to need some help on this effort. Here's an example of Istio is just one of the many meshes that we're measuring. They've put a lot of effort into measuring the performance of Istio under different scenarios. And they're using actually the same format, the same JSON format that we're using, they're using. On this site, what they're saying is there's a particular type of test. They're basically looking at this set of statistics, and they've run it a bunch of times. So you can look at, you can go back in history and look at the data from a prior performance test, and they graph it out. For us, starting out, we would just show the same thing that we're showing in Mesh or UI probably here, and we let people switch between independent data sets, independent results. Yeah. Eventually, what we'll need to figure out, Aditya, is, well, okay, that's fine, but like not all, but sometimes people are trying to test for how fast their proxy is, or for how much memory it consumed, or for, and that's where we'll start to break down between those different types of tests. And where you can kind of tell, and we'll need to standardize these, but where you can tell the difference is in the test results that you were looking at, the JSON, it has not only test results and histograms and standard deviations and stuff, but it has information about how long the test was run, what type of surface mesh it was, what the endpoint was. Like, we'll need to start to use some of that data to build out a navigation system. You know, to say
you can have like test runs with Istio, test runs with Linkered, something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. So I know we're spending, okay. Any thoughts or other, so Aditya, if you just, I think for now, if you just use, excuse me, a static set of JSON data as your test data, you crack open a PR on this site, and you have a relatively simple looking page that reuses one of the existing layouts to let people nav between result sets, and then ultimately start to nav between result sets for one mesh versus the next. Yeah. You'll be moving quite a, you'll be doing good.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I can do that.
Anyone else wanting to spend time here as well on that last effort? Now is a good time to signal to Subedi. So Yash is thinking.
Yeah, I also can.
DPI, nice. Good. Yeah, there'll be, so end up being a big deal. There were a number of people that reached out about this last week from some companies that you all know. So, okay. How much? Okay, so we're just over time. Leonard, we should circle back to you briefly.
All right, I'm here.
So I think you've more or less answered my question, which is, hey, you've identified a particular plugin. The plugin, part of the plugin's responsibility is to implement the fallback strategy, or implement. So part of what it does is it looks at the pictures that are there. It creates alternative, more modern image formats for the same image. It leaves, I suspect, the original in place as a fallback plan.
Yes.
And so for those that are contributing, there's no change in the contribution flow. Like people just, the plugin does its thing.
Yeah, yeah. There's no need to change anything. There's no need to do any extra configuration as a contributor. So I sent a link on Slack. So what I was talking about was like config. I sent a link on the website channel. It's just like adding a format. Yes. So you just add a format. I sent a link on the website. So you just add a format in the Gatsby config. So
Gotcha. Okay.
this is actually huge. So I don't as you find it from here, but then so
Okay. Nice. I mean, that when we say it like that, that's relatively concise and straightforward. It's like, hey, there's a new plugin. There's a plugin that will do this for us. Here's how it works.
yes. If you go to the website channel, you see the link and you see just the format. You just you talk about, like, you write the fallback. You want the image, the way you want the image to be rendered. So if it doesn't get to render as a WebP, it should render as a JPEG. And if it doesn't render as a JPEG, then it should automatically detect what it wants. So this is the format, the default, the particular default where you have format auto WebPMG, the code. So yes, the format, yes. So this is where you set breakpoints and customize other things if you want to. Else it happens automatically on its own.
This sounds like a nice behavior.
Yes, yes, yes. You can add blur and other things as well. So, yes.
Any other comments for Leonard? Devil Priya, you might be close to this. Like, so, wait, you can customize it? Okay.
Yeah,
So
I was
what?
checking because Nikhil was working on this recently. He did change the defaults. Like the placeholder right now is a blurred image for static images. So I was just checking right now if we are already implementing this.
All right, that's perfect.
Awesome. Anybody have anything that we missed? Is there anyone on the call that is here and is twiddling their thumbs, is here to do something, but they don't have anything to do? Much like we encourage the use of webcams during the calls, we also discourage thumb twiddling. No thumb twiddling allowed. So I think of the names that I see in the call, I don't think you could twiddle. You're all pretty busy from what I recall. So, all right.
So please, sorry, last question. Is there something else that needs to be adjusted, or is this good?
Yeah, I didn't quite hear you, but you had said, hey, is there something else to dig into?
No, I said, like, but concerning this PR, is this like, is it good, or is there something else I need to like adjust at the point concerning the PR, or is it good to go, so that I probably look for other things I could like dig into?
Right. Yeah, I think from what I've seen from my part, it's good to go. Like, it's good to go. We'll want to have Nikhil Lara check it out, just because, like Debo Priya was just saying, that he had made some changes here recently, and so he's in the zone. He's the right one to check this out. Let's make sure he's okay. Yeah, he's made some. Okay, so Nikhil is the guy that we want to get a thumbs up from, just because he's been more into this area than I have recently. Good. So I just poked him on Slack to make sure. And then in terms of like other things forthcoming, so we've got this initiative around service mesh performance. Yash and Subedi are on that. We're going to talk about the service mesh playground soon. And that might be a place to jump in. There'll be some fresh designs there. What else? Deborah, Priya, and Aditya, am I missing other noteworthy things?
We recently started like the second version of the learning paths, so probably find more stuff to add there.
Oh yeah, the bookmarks and that. Yeah. Here's what. Right. Here's a challenge. Now I don't. This is gets into Jekyll a little bit.
Actually, this is like pure, like if someone's good with complete vanilla JavaScript, they can try this out. 'Cause more than Jekyll, it would need like really good JavaScript skills. Otherwise, like me and Devopriya, we have spent a lot of time trying to figure this one out.
Yeah. So Leonard, I don't know if this is one that intrigues, but for Leonard and others on the call, there's a set of filters there's a collection of items, and right now the implementation only lets someone filter on one label, one attribute at a time. And that's not always, you might want to look at everything for Linkerd that's for troubleshooting. But right now it's just, yeah.
I thought I wanted to work with this. I wanted to work with Aditya for this before. So since he has implemented the single filter, I'll probably look it up and see if I can figure out a thing or two to make it start filtering multiple items at the same time.
Nice.
I did a good job.
Oh man. All right. Very good. I think that's a wrap. We didn't miss anybody? We didn't miss anything? Everyone having, okay, good. Yeah. Have a good Monday, the rest of it for most of you.
Also, happy Valentine's Day, guys.
Say it.
Bye.
Happy Valentine's Day, Lee.
Oh, happy Valentine's. Yeah. Oh no, I need to make a quick run to the store. All right. See you all.
Bye, guys.